Let's be clear from the start, Ukraine will not be anyone's pawn. Not for Washington, not for Moscow, not for anyone. And any deal to end this war? It must respect one thing above all else: Ukraine's independence. Hi, I'm here to break through the fog of diplomacy that's clouded the world's view of this conflict. Because lately, every leader seems to be acting, pretending even, like peace is just around the corner if they play their cards right. Putin acts like he wants peace. Trump pretends he trusts him. Zelensky nods along. Europe tries to hold the line, but behind the smiles at summits in Alaska and Washington, no one's fooled. These meetings sound important. Real progress? Still missing. Sure, every leader gets a win. Putin gets to play big on the world stage. Trump gets to dodge pressure back home. Europe and Ukraine get promises of weapons and seats at the table. But let's be real. These are just moves in a bigger game. Now, Trump might look like he's changing his approach, promising arms to Ukraine and acting tough on Russia. But he's unpredictable. He could flip back to threatening Kyiv and Europe any moment. And that's exactly why Ukraine won't let anyone else decide its fate. Here's what matters. Ukraine is open to negotiation, but only if the outcome truly secures its independence. There's no appetite in Kyiv for surrender. Not unless Europe abandons Ukraine, or the country collapses from within, which isn't happening. After years of broken promises from Moscow, Ukraine knows better than to sign a flimsy peace. Trump talks about security guarantees, maybe even NATO-like protections. But let's be honest, the distance between being in NATO and having NATO-like protection is huge. What Ukraine needs isn't more empty words. It's real, lasting support. EU membership? That's crucial. Because arming Ukraine but leaving it outside the EU only gives Putin hope that someday, somehow, he can drag Ukraine back under his control. And the only way any peace deal works is if Russia truly accepts Ukraine's right to exist as a sovereign, independent nation. Now about those so-called land swaps. Imagine having your home stolen and being told you can get your bike back if you just agree to let the thief keep your car. That's what giving up territory would mean for Ukraine. It's not just illegal, it would tear the country apart. A ceasefire isn't the same as peace. Putin wants permanent peace, but only so he can stall, grab more ground, and avoid tougher sanctions. Every week spent in endless talks means more suffering for Ukraine, more lives lost, more land stolen. So, what's the path forward? If Russia is willing to accept Ukraine's independence, there's room for creative solutions. But as long as Moscow's goal is to erase Ukraine's sovereignty, these negotiations are just delay tactics. Here's the bottom line. Ukraine won't lay down its arms until its independence is truly secure. Diplomacy is important, but no summit, statement, or photo op can substitute for understanding and respecting what Ukraine actually needs. Ukraine will not be a pawn, and any real peace must recognize its right to exist. Free, independent, and strong. Recap: no land swaps, lasting security, EU integration, real support, not photo ops. No deal that compromises Ukraine's independence will hold. Any agreement must be built on guarantees that are credible and enforceable. There are precedents for gray zone solutions, but they only work when one side is protected and strengthened over time. Like how the US strengthened Taiwan while postponing final settlement. For Ukraine, that means Washington must be willing to back up words with consistent pressure on Moscow. Beware Moscow's trap. Talk of permanent peace and addressing root causes is often a stalling tactic. Every week absorbed by choreography is a week Russian forces seize more territory and kill more civilians. If Putin avoids a meeting under pretexts, that's confirmation he's stalling. A summit could force steps forward, but it won't guarantee peace. Zelensky has endorsed talks, but only if they secure Ukraine's future. If Moscow stalls, it will be yet more proof of bad faith. The war will likely rage on while Russia's motivations don't change. Ukraine still has the capacity to fight back, and it will not lay down its arms until independence is safeguarded. Europe is helping, but the world must do more, faster. Diplomats can profess progress, but words are not a strategy. The strategy must match Ukraine's demands: security, EU integration, sustained arms, and supply continuity. Without that, diplomacy becomes choreography that costs lives. To become a true peacemaker, others must first accept Ukraine's requirements. Peace that ignores sovereignty is no peace at all. Only by respecting Ukraine's independence can any deal truly end the war. Ukraine will not be a pawn. Stand for the principle: independence, sovereignty, and EU integration, because real peace, lasting peace, respects a nation's right to exist. If you want updates and deep dives, subscribe and stand with principles that matter. Thank you.